Hello everyone and welcome back to my Wealth Odyssey. This is the portfolio update for June 2026. In this series, I'm tracking my real-time journey from small investor to financial freedom. I'm hoping that with consistent investing, I'm looking to build a long-term portfolio that one day could reach that magic £1 million and even beyond. I started this journey at the beginning of 2025 and then made my first deposit into my stocks and shares ISA with Trading 212 in April of that year. Since then, I've invested every single month and we are now 1.5 years into the journey, so 18 months. And what a journey it has been. We've seen a lot of market volatility, exciting opportunities, some doubt and some absolute lessons that I've learned along the way, and this month is no different, and you'll see very shortly why I say that. But yes, I made quite a big mistake, but yeah, I'll come to that shortly. This is just my corner of the internet where I'm documenting my wins and my setbacks and the mistakes and strategies that I hope will build long-term wealth in the future. As always, I'm not a financial advisor and none of this is financial advice. These videos are for entertainment purposes really, and I really enjoy holding myself accountable and actually having a little bit of fun with some video editing. Okay, so let's dive into the portfolio and see where we left things at the end of May 2026. As you can see on the screen, we had a closing balance of just over £27,000, which meant an overall portfolio profit of £4,333.55. At the beginning of June, I contributed a further £2,000 to the portfolio, bringing my total invested up to £25,000. Now, as a little precursor, my investment journey will be slowing down, and that is for good reason, and that is because I managed to complete on my first property in June. So yeah, there's quite a few costs involved with that. So I'm navigating becoming a homeowner for the first time and all of the costs and unexpected costs that brings. Okay, so let's have a look at the comings and goings in the portfolio during the month of June. You'll see on screen that I've added a further £1,000 to XFAB Silicon Foundries, and I'll talk a little bit more about that company and why I think it might do well in the coming years shortly. But first, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Sivers Semiconductors. You'll see there that I've added £5,171, and you're probably thinking, Chris, why on earth have you invested so much money and a random amount as well? So instead of buying £500 worth, which is what my plan was, I bought 500 shares worth of the company, which equated to just over £3,670. I'd got the fields mixed up, and that's what actually happens if you're not too careful like I was. I could have sold these shares once I actually realised. However, I thought to myself, well, I'm actually quite bullish on the company in the coming 2 to 3 years. I think it's got a very good runway. And if you look at my previous video, you can actually see the reasons why I think it's going to do quite well, potentially. But it's just my thoughts only. So I thought I would actually hold on to the 500 shares and see how I got on. And in fact, actually add more shares in the future. And that was my second mistake, because the stock actually went down after this. Of course it did. These things always happen to me. So that means that I have actively invested in my portfolio just over £17,671 with a cash reserve sitting on the side waiting for any potential market crash of £6,737. At the bottom of the screen, if you're new here, I still have my free money in my quantum stocks that's just bubbling along nicely now that I've taken out my initials once they had done very well for me in 2025. Now, who wants to hear another mistake? Well, I did make another mistake, and one of my rules for investing that I made at the beginning of 2026 was to actually sell my initial investment, a little bit like I did with the quantum companies, once the stock price had doubled. So Keel Infrastructure is one of those stocks recently that did actually double in price. And you can see there on screen, it peaked at around about £6.40. But did I sell my initial £1,000 investment in the company to let the free money, that free £1,000 ride now for the coming years? No, I didn't. I got a little bit greedy. I thought to myself, if I hold out for a little bit longer, I might get a little bit more money and then I'll be able to sell my £1,000 and let everything run, hopefully to the upside in the future. And I think that just really shows you the power and importance of having rules for yourself. So you can see there that while it did peak at around about 640 and I did double my investment, since then it's actually plummeted down to £4.58, which means that I'm now only £452 up instead of that 1,000. And yeah, a little bit disappointing. And I think I just need to refocus a little bit more. And when I hit those predefined goals, I need to execute. So simple as that. So another big lesson learned there. So yeah, June has certainly been one of those months where I've been learning a few things. So eventually, if Keel Infrastructure, and I hope it does go back up to that kind of $6.40 range, I will be selling my initials. Just as I should have done the first time round. But again, that could be a few months, it could be years. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is a long-term investment for myself. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now, as promised, about XFAB, which is one of the stocks that I invested in this month. And that was a further £1,000, bringing my total up to £1,500. Now, why am I investing in this company? Again, a really interesting thesis laid out by Serenity on X. The interesting thing about XFAB is that it sits potentially as a bottleneck in the semiconductor supply chain. So XFAB are concerned with trying to actually move data between servers. As AI data centers get larger, one of the biggest challenges becomes moving enormous amounts of information using light rather than traditional electrical connections. And that is where silicon photonics comes in. XFAB is one of the relatively smaller foundries with expertise in manufacturing, specialised in photonics chips, power semiconductors, sensors, and complex mixed signal devices. And these are not commodity chips that any factory can produce easily. So the bull case for this company is that if AI companies continue building out massive data centers, which I think they will be, demand for optical interconnects and photonic components could increase rapidly. And if manufacturing capacity for those components remains limited, companies like XFAB could be a really important choke point in the supply chain. And then that will be reflected in the actual money that the actual company makes, and hopefully the stock price will go up. The bigger risk is, though, that future demand is not guaranteed, and larger competitors are also investing in photonics. XFAB only sits at around about $1 billion to $2 billion in US market cap. However, I see this as a long-term play once again. So yeah, this is just a company that I like the look of, but as always with any stock, it can go up, it can go down, and you need to make your due diligence before you make any purchases. That's just some of the research that I've been doing. One of the big macro things that did happen in June is that we had the SpaceX IPO, and I think that did have a bearing on the portfolio because I think people probably pulled out some money from their investments to invest in Elon Musk's super company that's valued at over $1 trillion. So in terms of a month-end figure for June, we had a closing balance of £25,055.39. That means that the monthly profit loss was actually a negative 4,200 and change, bringing my overall portfolio profit to £55.39 after 18 months. However, at its peak, I did a bit of research on Trading 212. My portfolio actually topped out in June at £31,152. So it really does show the volatility within the portfolio. And maybe I need to think about investing into bigger funds or ETFs to have a little bit more stability within the portfolio. Okay, so let's have a look at my investing journey graph. If you're new here, you can see here that the red line at the bottom was my hope of saving £500 and investing £500 a month into the portfolio, with the blue line being the hopeful expected return of about 15%. And the orange line is the amount of money I've actually been able to contribute to the portfolio. And that number will slow down in the coming months because properties are expensive and getting things sorted out cost a bit of money. And there we go with the green line. So that's the overall portfolio profits. You can see there, wow, we got off to a really quick start after month 5 and we accelerated up. And then we stayed around the actual £19,000 to £20,000 mark. And in the last couple of months, we've actually had a nice acceleration. But with the loss of over £4,000 to the portfolio in June, the green line has now come all the way back down and is almost kissing the orange line. Now you can see on screen a table that keeps me motivated, and that's the estimated stocks and shares ISA balance distribution of holders at different balance bands. Now we were sitting in the 25,000 to 30,000 band, and even with the big loss this month, we stay in that band just about. So I'm hoping we can consolidate and we can stay within the 25 to 30,000 band before making a tilt to get further up the table. But yeah, this table, I started at the bottom, and my hope, my dream is to get all the way up to the top. I really hope that if you're also investing, that June was a kinder month to you than it was to me. I will be uploading my premium bonds video for July in a few days, and if you've got this far in the video, let's just say you might want to have a look at that one. Yeah, don't get too excited, but yeah, some good news on that front. So join me in July, where can I actually hold above that 25k level and consolidate for a little while before pushing up again. Yeah, of course we can. Cheers, guys.